Thank you all for meeting with me. You're all doing some wonderful work destroying the world, but I think it's probably time for us to reevaluate.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption, but I think we're in the wrong meeting. We're not here to destroy the world. We're here to save it. You see, we are some of the leading leaders of liberal causes, and I'm with the Human Rights Campaign, who focus on LGBTQ plus and trans rights. You see, I have an equal sign to let you know that I'm a good person.
Oh, excuse me, women's reproductive rights.
Climate.
Free Palestine. Open borders.
I misspoke before. You guys are not destroying the world, okay? You are saving the world.
Hey, whoa, what's up with those scare quotes?
Pretty sure I didn't use scare quotes when I said saving the world.
Yes, again.
The important thing to keep in mind is that there's a big election coming up, and you and I, we're all on the same page, okay? So if we want Biden to win, he needs to win in order for us to save the world. If we want Biden to win, you folks, how can I say this? You might need to tone it down just.
Tone down what?
Oh, that's a good question. You're women's reproductive rights, right? Okay. Excellent branding, by the way. It's much easier on the ears than baby murder. So kudos to you on that one. But opposing any restrictions all the way through to the 9th month, I mean, you see how you're kind of tipping your hand, right? Makes people think, wait, maybe they actually want to kill babies. And we do, obviously.
No, we don't.
Oh,
No, we don't. We don't.
right. We don't. But you see how it can kind of look that way. So that's all I'm saying. Let's tone it down. And you, immigration, clearly we don't want a completely open border that undermines any sense of national sovereignty, driving down wages for the working class and overtaxing the welfare state. So let's go a bit easy there too. I mean, why not something like this? Why not something like diversity is our...
Are you trying to say diversity is our strength?
Yes! How do you say that without laughing? Oh my gosh. I can't even get through it. This is head de moi. My sides. My goodness. Okay, what about you? Pro-Palestine. You are, I'm going to say this. You're kind of coming across like you just want to wipe Israel off the map and kill all the Jews.
We do want to wipe Israel off the map and kill all the Jews.
Of course, yes. And that's awesome. I'm all for that. I love that. But you need to pretend like you don't want to wipe Israel off the map and kill all the Jews.
Why?
Excuse me?
I mean, we're pretty clear in our position, and most young people and everyone on college campuses, and half the Democratic Party, of course, still support us.
Yeah, it's cool now.
You may have a point there. You might be the only person in here that can be as evil as you want to be and get away with it. All right, still, let's think about tactics. Okay, do you think that occupying bridges and blocking traffic is somehow winning people over to your cause?
Yeah, and making people hate us by blocking traffic is our thing. He's stealing our thing!
You're not stealing your thing. You must die. We will kill you all.
See, this is what I'm talking about. I mean, okay, I love the homicidal thing that you got going on there. I really dig it, okay? But maybe market it just a little bit differently. Like the serial killer that everyone thinks is such a sweet guy, He's got 27 bodies in the basement, but he's like, coaching Little League. That's what I want. Be that guy.
Death to America.
The funny thing is, you don't even look Middle Eastern. Am I wrong, people? Am I wrong?
I'm not. I actually grew up on Long Island, but my parents sent me to college. Death to America.
HRC guy, you have been going over the top as well.
Well, it's important for us, they, them, to be accepted just like everyone else.
Yes, of course. And convincing people that they're intolerant for not wanting men to get naked in women's locker rooms. I guess that's genius. I mean, come on, it's next level stuff. All right, but insisting that your children be mutilated. I mean, come on, it's turning people off, you guys. I mean, not everyone, obviously, but until the election, can we just all pretend for a few months not to be crazed, lunatic, homicidal extremists?
No, it's my body, Donald J. Trump.
You will obey me. Sorry. Glad we're all on the same page, though. So, how do you do it? When I do evil stuff, it seems like nobody likes me. When you do it, everyone finds you sympathetic.
Well, see, my people are oppressed victims. So we can rape, murder, and call for genocide, and it's pretty much totally justified.
Well done, Ahmed. Well done.
Hey you! Are you enjoying these videos? Then I have a loose suggestion for you. Why don't you like it? Comment and hit the subscribe button. In fact, even if you didn't like this video, I strongly suggest that you do it. It's not a threat. I'm not pressuring you. You just have to do it.
Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome to the program. No, my voice hasn't rebounded yet. I'm working on it. Some of you are probably getting a ton of snow across the country, something sweeping across most of the northern part of the country, and you're getting snow. So I decided today would be one of those good days.
It is the year 610.
See, I hit the wrong button already. Let's get our history and storytelling on. I've been contemplating doing this series for a while because I believe you need to go back to the sources as much as you can. You got to go back to the sources and dig for history yourself. Then make up your mind where you stand on history. In society, this used to be the norm, but as you went to school, this was beat out of you and trained out of you, and you missed history, but you got advanced underwater basket weaving by gay studies by women with one eye, Cyclops cast, right? Anyway, so we're going to dive into a multi-part series on forbidden history that I'm calling Eye on Islam. Why? Because there's a lot of discussion going on about all the Muslims that have come across our borders illegally and been brought into cities. So we're going to get our education on. Do me a favor, please share this program right now. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Gold Go. This is probably one of the most simple requests. Get on over to jovanlovesgold.com and request your free gold and silver kit today. Precious metals are going through the roof. This is not about investing as much as it's about feeding your brain so you understand why this point in history is so critical and you need to know about it, especially if you have a 401k, IRA, retirement savings account. Now is the time to protect your money, the money you already have in those accounts, with gold and silver. So just do it with my fine partners at Gold Go. It's as simple as hopping over to jovanlovesgold.com. Okay. Again, multi-part series. Whether you like it or not, the United States is going to have to deal with this Islam issue. Period. We cannot afford any misinformation or misunderstanding, and we can't afford just to kind of pop off and not be educated. Because remember, you can't fix what the system does to you if you don't understand why and how the system does it. And you got to admit something's going on, right? Regarding Islam. I want you to share this program. Share it right now. We're going to get started in this multi-part series, Eye on Islam. Let's get started right after this.
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians? The elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media. In the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd, cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, guys, here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to discuss forbidden history. In this series, I'm calling Eye on Islam. Simple question. If Muhammad brought a monotheistic Islam to the world, what were the faiths prior? Simple question. If we know Muhammad's time was about 610, the year 610 AD, what was before? Right? What was before? Most people should be interested in this because how can one thing be two things exactly at the same time? The religion of peace and love, and I'll cut your damn head off, which is I'm just speaking factual. How can it be two things at once? So I think it's important to go back into history and study these things. No religion is perfect. The one thing about religion is it has an ingredient in it that corrupts it. Put it in chat if you know what the ingredient is in religion that always causes the recipe to sour. So if you were cooking up religion and you're making your wonderful recipe, this many goats, this many virgins, this honey, this river, whatever, what is the one thing that always taints the religion? Humans, human nature. Right, humans. That's the catch of all of it. That is exactly everything that makes all religions, no matter what it is, all religions go wrong. People. That's the mix. And so what I'm going to try to do is we're going to go back in time and we're going to take a look at when Muhammad was around. And so to understand when Muhammad was around, and all I'm asking in this first episode, there'll be multiples, if it is in fact Muhammad that brought a monotheistic religion, meaning quote unquote one true God, to the world to create Islam, what was there before? So we have to take a look at, okay, what was going on before? Now, if we were looking at the year 610 and we were looking at reasonable Middle Eastern populations, right? For the ancient Levant, that's what it was called, Mediterranean Levant, the bathtub bowl that's Mediterranean. You're talking Syria, Lebanon, all the ancient lands of Israel, what the Romans called Palestinia, etc., Mesopotamia, Iraq, Iran, Anatolia, which is modern Turkey, and the Arabian Peninsula. Okay? So during that time, there was about 30 million people, okay? And in that part of the world. And so right now we can only concern ourselves with that ancient part of the world. If we got a little bit more specific as to where Muhammad was, there were about 5.25 million people in the Arabian Peninsula. There were about 4.5 million people in Egypt, about 1 million people in Iraq at the time, and ancient Mesopotamia. Anatolia, Turkey, up to the north. Turkey was higher. It was about 7.9 million people. If we went into the heartlands of ancient Iran and stuff, probably it could be said there were 4 to 6 million people there, etc. But that's where the numbers come from. Okay, that's where the number comes from. At a time in the world when there were probably guesstimates, there were probably 30 million people there, but there were probably an estimated 200 million people in the world totally, all around the world. Okay, so that's your context to what kind of scale are we talking about when we talk about when Muhammad came about, okay, when he basically came into being. Now, let's look at the world at that time. So you have to understand Muhammad's right here in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, etc., right? Mecca, Medina. So you're kind of looking at this fellow Muhammad. At that time, kind of up and to the left, the Byzantine Empire was having issues. That's when Heraclius came in to overthrow others and to overthrow what becomes the Eastern Roman Empire at the time. So this part up here is constant turmoil. So to the north of Muhammad is turmoil. Then, if you were to look at the same time, kind of a little bit to the left and north, you had the Romans who were battling the Persians. It was the Byzantine-Sasanian conflict. Same groups of people, a little bit of derivatives, but that's going on at the same time. There's another huge classic war, and the Persians are seizing major territory, including at the heart of this, Jerusalem in the year 614. Okay? And remember, we're talking about Muhammad, and so Muhammad's initial call, what they call the prophetic call, is happening kind of in this window. And then over here to the right of ancient Egypt and everything, you have India. There was trading going on. So all of North India, between 606 and 647, it's all in turmoil. So the North Indian Harsha, Harsha, Harsha's in turmoil, battling. So all ancient India, and ancient India is trying to fight old ancient ways versus medieval ancient ways. And so that's immediately to the right, a little further distant to the right and north, but certainly affecting trade, is China's going through its own stuff. Its Grand Canal is its big project at the time. And China as a country, right, have finally finished this canal, but they're thriving. They're kicking ass because North and South have combined by this incredible canal that opens up trade, okay? But the people are enslaved to do it. So that's economic hardship right there. And then in the steps up a little bit north, and China, Western Turks and China, they're battling. Western Europe, it's got its own battles going. And there's a reset going on in Western Europe, which is up and to the left. Clothar, the ancient Frankish empires, Merovingian, my ancestors. Clothar are all trying to get everything put back together, right? Trying to get everybody in Paris, and that's been in turmoil all across France, Frankish Empire, total turmoil, trying to put that country back together. So that's immediate up and left. And then if you were to think about the Americans, that's at the time when classic Mayan culture and then Mexican culture, which is Teotihuacan, are booming. So there's your world snapshot. Okay, that's the world snapshot of what was going on when this fellow, Muhammad, rose up to be recognized. Well, you probably caught two themes. a predominant theme that everything around him is war and people trying to take over other people. And empires are being built and consolidated. So this is a classic time. Didn't matter where you went, at what direction, chances are you're going to walk into a war. You're going to walk into being either captured or enslaved or murdered or to have your crap taken from you. And it's so many different factions, you don't really know where to put your loyalty. Okay? Now, and by the way, thank you for reposting this stream. This is going to be an ongoing series. Forbidden History, Eye on Islam. This is part one. Chaka Khan. And this is part one. If Muhammad brought a monotheistic Islam to the world, what were the faiths prior? What were the faiths prior? Okay, let me ask you a question. If there were 30 million people in the area, do you know what their faiths were in 600, 610? What were their faiths? Take a guess, put it in chat. What was the faith of the people? You got 30 million people in this ancient Levant. Okay. What was the faiths? What were the faiths of the people? Because this is going to come into play, right? This is going to come into play. So I want you to hold that in your mind as to who were the people as we begin to discuss this. Now, anything dealing with faith, I have no dog or horse in this race. This is just history. History is what history is. And yes, there's always slight embellishments and stuff on the telling of a story. I'll give you an example. Here's the predominant story when you're asked, hey, tell me about the faith of Islam in 2 minutes. What is it?
How Islam began in 2 minutes. Islam began in the 7th century in Arabia. At the time, the region was divided by tribal loyalties. Mecca was a major trade center and religious hub. People there worshipped many gods and idols, but a few believed in one God. In 570 CE, a boy named Muhammad was born in Mecca. He came from the respected Quraysh tribe. He was orphaned young and raised by his uncle. As an adult, he became a merchant known for honesty. People called him Al-Amin, meaning the trustworthy. At 25, he married Khadijah, a wealthy widow. Their marriage was strong and supportive. Muhammad often retreated to a cave to pray and reflect. He thought deeply about life, faith, and injustice. When he was 40, the angel Gabriel appeared to him with a command.
Recite in the name of your Lord who created.
These were the first words of the Quran. That moment marked the beginning of Islam. Muhammad began preaching in Mecca. He called for belief in one God, Allah. He taught justice, kindness, and helping the poor. But Mecca's leaders felt threatened by his message. They mocked him, attacked his followers, and tried to stop him. In 622 CE, Muhammad and his followers fled Mecca. They traveled over 200 miles north to Yathrib. This journey, called the Hijra, marks year 1 in the Islamic calendar. Yathrib became Medina, the first Muslim city. There, Muhammad built a peaceful, multi-faith community. He led battles to defend it from the Quraysh. Despite hardships, Islam kept growing. In 630, Muhammad returned to Mecca with a peaceful army. The city surrendered and no revenge was taken. Muhammad entered the Kaaba and removed all idols. He rededicated it to the worship of one God. By then, most of Arabia had embraced Islam. In 632, Muhammad gave his farewell sermon. He reminded Muslims to stay united and just. Shortly after, he passed away in Medina, but Islam didn't end. It had just begun.
Okay.
It is
a lot quite a bit to unpack there. And probably many things you didn't know about Muhammad, like a few of you already see in chat. Yeah, he arrived with a peaceful army. is that kind of like mainly peaceful protesters. So if you listen, congratulations to you, Kitty. If you listen to the words, you get a really good tone of what are facts, but said in a very nice way. You probably learn a lot more about Muhammad than you knew, in the fact that, he got this, he was in a city, then he traveled somewhere else, then he built a city, then he built an army, then he came back. You'll probably hear a lot of things that were kind of different that you might not have known about this fellow named Muhammad. Now, in the retelling of Muhammad, you're going to hear in the common theme about Gabriel, one of the top angels, coming to talk to him. Now, I want to set this juxtaposition for you if I can. During this time, with 30 million people in the region, what you hear about Muhammad is he is basically professing the one true God. Now, that kind of sounds familiar. That kind of sounds familiar. The one true God. And this is the year, what is using it roughly, 7th century, 610 AD. Let's just start from there. When did the worship of one true God begin? Now, people, especially in Islam, will say, well, it is Muhammad who brought the world the one true God. When in fact, when it comes down to the one true God, that's the God of, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Noah, the whole bit, the one true God. So why the conflict here? If the one true God had already been around, almost close to 2,000 years. One true God came about in the 14th century Common Era BC for the Egyptians, right? So we'll call that 1350. And then we've got to hop forward to the ADs, right? It had already been around for a long time. Primarily the durable God, the Abrahamic line, yes, as Judaism and Isaiah and all of this stuff and everything that had to do with the Babylon exile and the first and second temple period, right? And so you got something that had truly been around for thousands of years. So you got to ask yourself, if in fact the one true God, Moses or otherwise, that was preaching the one true God, and even Egyptians had turned away from idols, we got our 10 Commandments, etc. Egyptian had done it, moved away. Of course, you got the life of Jesus. What was really unique regarding this person in history, the prophet Muhammad, that all of a sudden, centuries later, he comes up and says, no, I have the one true God. Because there's multi-thousand millennia and there's multi-centuries between all these things. So what made this fellow different? What made this fellow known as Muhammad catch on? That's the question. What made this fellow Muhammad different? What made Muhammad catch on? So let's do a little bit of study of the person first. Who in fact was this Muhammad that in Islam became the great prophet? Now you have to understand, he was not contrary to what you might think, he was not a religious leader. He wasn't even a public leader. He was just a typical Meccan man. They say he had a reputation for being trustworthy, which I'll show you. His life story is that he was orphaned early in life, raised by his uncle. Now, remember, most people never catch this, but that's the source of the big battle between Shias and Sunnis when it comes to Muslims, Shia and Sunnis, red check, blue check, right? That's the battle between Muhammad and his uncle. Who's really the prophet? Was it Muhammad, this little guy, or was it truly his uncle? Is that where it comes from? And that's what they kill each other over, is who gets credit. Anyway, he was raised by his uncle Talib, Abu Talib, who was married to his sister who was a lawmaker. Oh, sorry, wrong Talib, but you understand what I'm saying. And so he was a trader. That's what he did in the first half of his life. He was a merchant, raised by his family who were successful merchants. That's it. Now, what he did, excuse me, he actually married up. So this regular, normal guy married up and married this woman who had impeccable reputation. And so it all kind of washes over Muhammad, because he's the dude, that he had to be, trustworthy and important or whatever. But there's not a lot of details. Now, after his life, details kind of come out even more, right? So there is a difference in this fellow's life, as there is in all history, what prehistory shows and then what happened after his time. But in this time, Mecca, because that's what we're talking about the area, the city of Mecca, everything in that world revolved around trade. Everything in that world revolved around your clan, and everything in the world revolved around the credibility of your clan, right? So it's very old, deep traditions. What was their religion? Pop quiz. Put it in chat. Take a stab at it. These people in Mecca predominantly, what was their religion structure for the people of Mecca predominantly? They weren't agnostic. That's number one. They were not agnostic people. Second, there was a heavy dose of people trading, and those traders were all Jewish by far. But when you look at the people of Mecca, predominantly, the people of Mecca were what you would call today pagans, which basically mean they worshiped all kinds of deities. Could be rocks, could be water, could be goats, you name it. They were polytheistic pagans. Think the god pantheon, small g. Now, do you understand the difference in history and in theology? Small g versus big G. And it has nothing to do with being OG. Small g basically means it is an acknowledged God of many, small g, G-O-D. Big G only means the one true God. Now, at this time, almost all the people that are around Muhammad were polytheistic. All kinds of gods, both male and female. They believed in jinns, good spirits, bad spirits. You might call them angels and demons. Okay. And they believed that there were people that sometimes got overtaken by these spirits. Now, at the time, they believed poetry, if you could say stuff, I guess, in rhyme. Anyway, if you could do stuff in rhyme, that one of these spirits had helped you along. And so it was a very big deal that they believed all the time that spirits spoke through soothsayers, etc. They were considered, a word that you'll probably recognize, familiars. So during this time, there was a lot of cross-connection and cross-pollination between spirits tapping on our shoulder, telling us what to do. That old little devil or angel on your shoulder, right? That was kind of a combination. It was a kind of a common belief. Now, what we're told about Muhammad, is, other than him being trustworthy, he was sober. So he wasn't known as a drinker. He did disappear quite a bit. And he was, what he said, what he has been told the story is that he would disappear into the mountains to reflect on prayer. And then that's where he became interested in undertaking a public mission. We'll call it, ironically, his come to Jesus meeting. The merchant, who's now married, has some influence, decides, I want to become something bigger and better. This is a conscious decision that he has made and shared with people. And for all practical purposes, let's call it a politician. So let me give you the inside story. Here's what I'm doing, folks. I'm doing Forbidden History, Eye on Islam. And I'm only asking the simple question is, if Muhammad brought a monotheistic Islam to the world, which is what he did, he brought us monotheistic Islam, what were the faiths prior? What were the faiths prior? Now, I gave you the simple story. I'm going to play it one more time. Listen to the words. This is the simple story that if you're asked, tell me how Islam came about in 2 minutes, give me the story.
How Islam began in
Keywords matter.
How Islam began in 2 minutes. Islam began in the 7th century in Arabia. At the time, the region was divided by tribal loyalties. Mecca was a major trade center and religious hub. People there worshipped many gods and idols, but a few believed in one God. In 570 CE, a boy named Muhammad was born in Mecca. He came from the respected Quraysh tribe. He was orphaned young and raised by his uncle. As an adult, he became a merchant known for honesty. People called him Al-Amin, meaning the trustworthy. At 25, he married Khadijah, a wealthy widow. Their marriage was strong and supportive. Muhammad often retreated to a cave to pray and reflect. He thought deeply about life, faith, and injustice. When he was 40, the angel Gabriel appeared to him with a command.
Recite in the name of your Lord who created.
These were the first words of the Quran. That moment marked the beginning of Islam. Muhammad began preaching in Mecca. He called for belief in one God, Allah. He taught justice, kindness, and helping the poor. But Mecca's leaders felt threatened by his message. They mocked him, attacked his followers, and tried to stop him. In 622 CE, Muhammad and his followers fled Mecca. They traveled over 200 miles north to Yathrib. This journey, called the Hijra, marks year 1 in the Islamic calendar. Yathrib became Medina, the first Muslim city. There, Muhammad built a peaceful, multi-faith community. He led battles to defend it from the Quraysh. Despite hardships, Islam kept growing. In 630, Muhammad returned to Mecca with a peaceful army. The city surrendered and no revenge was taken. Muhammad entered the Kaaba and removed all idols. He rededicated it to the worship of one God. By then, most of Arabia had embraced Islam. In 632, Muhammad gave his farewell sermon. He reminded Muslims to stay united and just. Shortly after, he passed away in Medina, but Islam didn't end. It had just begun.
Okay. United, just people. So let's look at this story. An angel tells Muhammad, "You're it." He didn't think he was it, even though he married a very wealthy widow. The angel tells him, "You're it." And he goes into town and he's sharing this story with the merchants and stuff. And here's what he's saying: be nice, be peaceful, love each other. And everybody got pissed at him. Keywords matter. Comes back in and he says, be nice, be peaceful, love each other. And everybody gets pissed off, according to this story. So he has to run for his life. All I said was be nice and love each other. And he goes away. During his time away, he somehow builds a city, becomes a city builder, becomes a politician, and then he takes his peaceful army. They don't have weapons. They have pom-poms. You don't hear them coming on hoofbeat to your city to take you over. You just see confetti throwing in the air because he built a very large, peaceful army. And then he showed up at the cities and the politicians go, "Oh, it's you again. Come on in and take our shit. Because we were wrong." And then Muhammad says, "I've done so good. Continue to do good like me because I'm about to die. Love each other. Be peaceful. Be nice." Now, you might find out that there's an awful lot of touch points trying to convince everybody this guy's peaceful. Even then. But they kind of don't match. They kind of don't match. If there was a thriving town, a merchant town, thriving merchant town, you would have to believe that everybody in that merchant town was rat bastards. And when the guy come in and says, "Be nice, Hare Hare Krishna, be nice, Hare Krishna, Lam Kambaya," they go, "Get out of here." You'd have to believe that. So you'd have to believe everybody was rotten and they didn't want a good guy there, so they threw the good guy away. Well, then you would have to believe he was so good in his heart that he built a city of goodness. And in a city of goodness, he built the most goodness massive army of goodness. But I guess the city of goodness was not so good because he still wanted this other city. So he went to the other city with his goodness army and said, "Want some of my goodness?" And they said, "We were waiting for your goodness. Come in." Now, when I put it to you in that reducing to the ridiculous, you see there's something's kind of disconnected here. Right? Something's kind of trying to portray historically something that just doesn't drive. It's kind of like watching CNN and seeing people burn a city to the ground, but the news telling them, well, it's mostly peaceful protesters. You follow what I'm saying? Okay. let's go on a little bit of journey. I'm going to take you to that cave. The video I'm about to show you comes from all the ancient Arabic texts and records. This is not what Christians said. This is what ancient Mecca, Medina, Islam said. Okay? Here's a little different twist on the story.
It is the year 610. A man named Muhammad retreats to the cave of Hira, seeking solitude and reflection. He is not a prophet. He is not expecting revelation. But tonight, something will happen that will shake him to his core. Suddenly, a presence fills the cave. "Read," the being commands. "I am not one who reads," Muhammad replies, his voice trembling. Then, as recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari, the angel caught him forcefully and pressed him so hard that he could not bear it anymore. The grip released, only for the command to come again. "Read," the being commanded. "I do not know how to read," says Muhammad. The being grabs him a third time, demands again, "Read." Muhammad replied, "What shall I read?" The being instructed him to recite in the name of your Lord who created man from a clinging substance. Muhammad flees the cave trembling. He does not rejoice. He does not feel peace. He fears he has encountered a jinn. He fears he is losing his mind. He even considers throwing himself from a cliff, according to early Islamic sources. He runs to Khadijah crying, "Cover me, cover me." The Gabriel of Scripture always began with "fear not." However, this spiritual being began with force, seizing and pressing until a man could endure no more. The Bible warns, even if an angel from heaven preaches another gospel, let him be accursed. So the question remains, was this the same Gabriel, or was Muhammad deceived?
So this is where a big question in the retelling of the prophecy comes from. And it's a pretty significant retelling. Now, I showed you the aseptic one. That's kind of the approved verbiage. This one is only drawn from the actual text. Now, here's a little bit of a disconnect at the time. When Muhammad reported his encounter, it wasn't, "Oh my God, I met Gabriel." He was terrified. He was overwhelmed. It had transformed him. His body was trembling so bad. And basically, he ran the hell out of there asking for help. Basically, protect me, cover me. Now, that's from Muhammad himself. Now, his wife's family decided to receive outside counsel. And so they went to this Waqar ibn Nafal, not that you need to know it, and said, "Is this really a prophecy?" And then basically it became, well, maybe this was a prophecy, not a demon. So Muhammad and family began repeating to people what happened. They started sharing this publicly. Not my words, their words. Most people thought he was batshit crazy. Don't get offended at me giving you the history. You just need to know the history. They basically said, "You are nuts. You are totally nuts." Now, his message that he was sharing with everyone at the time was a very intense message, but it was radically socially disruptive. Now, this is where you need to understand it into context. If the world at the time had 200 million people, and we were just kind of to cleave the world in the half at the Levant, part of the world in one level is monotheistic, not monotheistic, theistic if you count Native Americans, Native South Americans, etc. Those were polytheistic. And then you look out to the right, Asia, all of that stuff, polytheistic. What Muhammad came in doing is saying, all of these idols must go. I have been told all of these idols must go. And he's trying to tell people, and the way I know this is because of being from the other world, not scripture. Not scripture. It wasn't like a written scripture he had stumbled across and read the truth. So don't think it was kind of like something from the Dead Sea Scrolls stuff. It wasn't. He basically said it was a speech of Kahin, a soothsayer. Somebody that would not be seen by them, but inspired him and told him everything to say. Now, you can imagine at this time, there's quite a conundrum because half of the people walking around the town at the time, kind of like modern New York City or San Francisco, they're like, bent over, screwed up, heads are whacked, whatever, because they have all kinds of disease or whatever. But see, that was also the realm of people that spirits were talking to. That's how they explained it. Right? What the hell's up with that motherfucker? He's sleeping halfway bent over. You follow what I'm saying? And so they're walking this fine line where he's trying to prove, no, it was God talking to me. God was talking to me. And basically the people are going, we just don't believe it. We just don't believe it. Because what he's saying is you've got to throw all of this stuff away. And it was kind of changing a little bit as this was going on. It was, you've got to throw this stuff away and you must follow me. Now there's the shift. You've got to throw all of these other things away and you must follow me. Big M, capital M-E. Not like Jesus is saying, there's the one true God. God is the way. No, he says you must follow me. So the whole world's kind of looking at him, trying to decide, was this really an angel or not? Now, in the angelic records, in the sense of how they were talked about, people knew who Gabriel was, the Gabriel of Old Testament and everything else, saying the great angels and prophets come to us and say, fear not. This one basically forced you. This one pressed you so hard that you thought you were going to die. This one basically under what you thought was pain of death, saying this is it, and you better keep doing it. So people were questioning this disconnect even back then. They were saying, that's not what angels do. You see the little oddness here? There's also something in what this angel said that I think is a little telling. Listen to the instruction. Now, this comes from all the ancient texts. Listen to the instructions that the angel said to him. Because the angel didn't say, like, God told me to tell you to do this. Listen to what the angel actually says.
It is the year 610. A man named Muhammad retreats to the cave of Hira, seeking solitude and reflection. He is not a prophet. He is not expecting revelation. But tonight, something will happen that will shake him to his core. Suddenly, a presence fills the cave. "Read," the being commands. "I am not one who reads," Muhammad replies, his voice trembling. Then, as recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari, the angel caught him forcefully and pressed him so hard that he could not bear it anymore. The grip released, only for the command to come again. "Read," the being commanded. "I do not know how to read," says Muhammad. The being grabs him a third time, demands again, "Read." Muhammad replied, "What shall I read?" The being instructed him to recite in the name of your Lord who created man from a clinging substance.
So the being told him, you're going to write what I tell you, but you're going to write it in the name of the God who created man. Now, there's kind of an odd disconnect in that, don't you think? It's been attributed to Gabriel, where there's no other accounts at any other time of angelic stuff like this being through force. This is obviously through force. He's scared for his freaking life, but the being tells him, no, you're going to write it, but you're going to write it in the name as if it came from your God that created man. So this is really a big disconnect at the time. Now, what you need to understand, and this is what's called the entire Meccan period. This is the Meccan period. We're looking at the impetus. A lot of the things you're not taught here is he was constantly pushed to go to the rabbis and tell the rabbis the following. Your God is not the real God. This fellow Jesus is not the real prophet. I am now the real prophet. My God supersedes your God. You must stop worshiping your gods monotheistically. You must now worship my God, and you must confirm I am the prophet. That's it. That's the whole thing. Of course, the Jews, and in fact, the Christians at the time said, go hump yourself. So Muhammad went basically on a journey of 12 years. Over the course of 12 years, with his family's wealth, because he married into a wealthy family, he basically began his life as a politician, not as a preacher, as a politician. And during that time of him politicking, what he was able to do via trading was create allies. He had an idea that somehow now he's divine. He is the one that knows the one true God. He knows what the rules are supposed to be. And it has to be done his way, and everybody else is wrong. And so what happened is he started creating his base of support. This was the years 621 through 621? 621 through 622. And he basically convinced the allies of Yathrib, which is what later became Medina, to come follow me. Come follow me. I will lead you. Okay? So he started leading and building I guess we'll call it a town. Medina is the easiest way to do it. And so he started building state. What's state building? He started basically saying, here's my people, here's my leaders, here's my subjects, here's this. We're going to establish this community. So he's building a city, a state. He's basically kind of started his own town. So this is where a city, a town, for the first time in record in this way, becomes a socio-political entity. See, before, towns and stuff or kingdoms were associated with rulers, right? Or trade settlements. He says, no, we're going to found our own town, and our town is going to function based on this socio-political rules where our religion is our politics, and you're going to have to live within these rules. So as he started that, that's where some of the pushback came, because he was successful at getting followers, right? He's having a real kind of Manson kind of point. So what happens is there's a battle that comes. This is in 624. The Battle of Badr, B-A-D-R. And in this battle, there were enough fights back and forth, small tribes, it's all kind of clannish, that between these battles, death, fighting, he was able to hobble together a group that basically said, do it my way or the highway. That's really what it comes down to. My way or the highway. And in order to stop this fighting, what happened is he wrote technically a constitution. That's right. It's called the Constitution of Medina. It's a political document. The Constitution of Medina. And in this constitution, he basically said, during this truce to stop everybody fighting, being a Muslim is normal. We are the peers. And you will accept that we are the peers. And if you accept that we are the peers, and if you accept that we know the rules and you don't, and we're better than you, and it all starts with us, then we'll make sure you don't have any problems. And so that's kind of how it grew. And that's how he grew its base. And with that, he was able to basically create an army. And then basically, he now had what's called diplomatic validation. See, these are the pieces that are missed. You think this was a guy going out into the desert to preach. No. You understand how the disconnect here? If you don't know the background, you don't really, and all I'm talking about is the historic facts. These are just the facts. A guy marries into a wealthy family, has resources. They have incredible trade routes and trade. He believes he has been visited by an angel. The angel convinces him he's the chosen one. And he basically uses his trade, his influence, and his power to create his own little town, his own little movement, gain protective allies, cause shit, but will stop causing shit if you'll agree that we're the peer, and he rose into power. That's it. There were before that, there was not a community of Islam, of Muslims, I should say. And you got to understand how this works. There were followers of Islam as preached by Muhammad. So there wasn't really Muslim communities. Now, if we were to look at Arabia, remember I told you about these predecessing people. Arabia was Jews and Christians. They were already monotheistic. So actually, Muhammad's angel is telling them, you've got to be like these people, the Jews and the Christians. Now, there were some Hanifs in this. Hanifs are individual monotheistics. They're not polytheistic with all these gods. They do believe in one, but there's so much non-history on that can't be found. It's not really to understand it. But if you were to look at how people were, there were people that believed there was really only one God, but it wasn't the God of Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob, Jews or Christians or whatever, but they did believe there was one God. So that kind of paved the way a little bit for Islam, where they said, well, no, we're the only ones. And that's basically what happened. He emerged saying a very simple thing. All these other people out here are telling you there's one God, or they're praying to a pantheon of gods. Well, you don't pray to the pantheon of gods. And by the way, what they say their gods is, they are wrong, I am not. That's it. They are wrong, I am not. In a community of Jews and Christians. But was it a church? Was it a synagogue like Jews? No. What he did was technically created the city, the socio-political. He combined everything together. It kind of like maybe going out in the desert and building a bunch of forts, and you get a bunch of people to do there, and you call yourself a city, but it's really one person and one man's rules. That's it. Okay? And so the country, the time, was Jewish and Christians. Okay? So if we were kind of look at these years, Medina through Yathrib is what it's called, so 622, the estimates say all the communities around there were anywhere between 40% and 60% Jewish. Yeah, kind of like Burning Man. You go out in the desert, you create your little city, you say this is it, here it is. So during this time when Muhammad is preaching all of this, the population could have been 4,000 to 5,000, but more than half of the population is Jewish. The area is minority Jewish. Now you begin to understand, well, wait a minute. Why does Islam have such hate for the Jews? Well, you have to understand, it came up in a city, town, place, region that's already monotheistic, already saying the one true God, the God of the Bible. The only difference is one man saying, no, an angel told me different. I'm the prophet. I have a different God, and my God's the right God, and you must leave your job, your God. And that's it right there. Whose God is who? And therein begins the fight in a territory that from the very get-go is predominantly Jewish. In fact, there were more Jews, monotheistic Jews, population-wise, compared to an Arab population that might have been 30+%, that were actually what were called pagan Arabs. Those were the Arabs that were worshipped all kinds of different deities. Could be from a cornstalk to a mud stick to a rock to a god or whatever, right? That's it. That's what there was. Christians, just so you understand, true Christians, we mean people of the word. That's a different thing. People of the word are the Roman derivative. You had this fellow, Jesus, he was a great teacher. He was Jewish. The prophets were the disciples were Jewish. If you had to look at it in very strict Christian terms, as you know Christianity today, that population was about 2%. Okay? So what you didn't have is you didn't have a mostly Muslim country. It didn't exist. You had a Jewish country. And in a battle that was fighting itself, kind of like what Constantine faced in Constantinople, the great settlement was what religion is going to be approved. And it just so happened that via arbitration, yes, just like court, via a court case, via arbitration, Medina, which was this kind of patchwork of clans and alliances and families or whatever, they basically made a foundational agreement that said, these are the rules we will live under. And that is what became, right, the clans of Medina and Muhammad combination. It was a society that half a society were not going to accept the one true God of the Jewish people. And you had all of these other gods here. So what it was a consolidation of people who were already kind of distracted by a bunch of gods, weren't really strong in their faith, and faith was not a big part of their life. Of course, they'd go to a temple, they might offer offerings or something, but it wasn't their life, unlike the Jewish people. And so what he was able to do is to consolidate democratically the people's opinions and say, here it is. And then when he consolidated that into a town, and he was able to take his people and put them into the right places, put them into the right structures, put them into the right offices, put them into this, they were basically became this group. And then this group now, which is what used to be a multi-religious city, now is able to kind of move, like the Jewish tribes, they're able to kind of move and start bringing their framework to other towns. And they set up a series of singular defensive coalitions. That's it. And what they did is that's why Medina is referred to as harem or sanctuary. It was the sanctuary. You believe as you believe, you're here. So what actually happened is what Muhammad really did is he was able to take cities that were fractured, couldn't get their shit together, kind of really had no operating structure, right? Was just kind of on its own. People are, trading, living in the streets or whatever. And he basically says, I'll pull you all together and we will turn you into a city. Now, he did this with a very unique twist. The unique twist is he brought in all immigrants from all over the place. So all of these people traveling with the caravans, all of these people that have been enslaved or otherwise, he basically draw them all in and says, now you can be something big, but this is what it has to be. It has to be this way. Now, during this time, if you were looking at Mecca or other cities, converts, that's why you have the word of converts to Islam, were very small. It was not kind of a big deal. In fact, if you were to look at Muhammad's Mecca at the time, now remember, this is why I gave you all these numbers. Yeah, I'll give you free healthcare. I'll give you a mobile phone. You'll get free schooling. You get a library card. You'll get a vote. In all of this time, the actual Muslim individuals following Muhammad as the prophet at Mecca at this time is a whopping 552 people. Yep, 552 people. Now it had grown. It had grown from 80 to 522. That's the growth structure. Basically, it was an opinion, it was a belief, and they changed the way people spoke, and they took over government offices. And once it got into government, they basically said, this is it. Now, if you look back at any faith in the world, any religion, anytime you get to that point, you have problems. When the government demands, this is who you worship. And here's what happened. A couple of things happened. The world, that region at the time, gets a live, meaning living, prophet. See, the prophets were of old. So everybody knew of the ancient prophets, the Elijahs, the Noahs, and all this, but it was thousands of years removed. So in this portraiture, they basically say, this is the new prophet. So now people get to touch someone, hear someone, go hear him speak. A prophet. And the most simple change he made, which is the very most important one. The true thing he changed was, when you look at that pantheon of gods, small g, there were all these idols and all these gods, right? And even though there were all these people and all these gods, there was a central figure called Allah. If there's a troll, you got to tell me who it is, right? Just tell, if there's a troll out there, tell me who it is, right? Don't think I'm 100% reading it. Give me a name. So, okay. There was increase immigration, says Chapstick. You hate free speech, boy. You hate free speech, boy. You hate free speech, boy. Okay, so somebody's come in talking about Florida. Florida's filled with subhuman white trash. But I'm a centrist patriot. Let me ask you a question. Increase immigration. What the fuck is the topic of my program today? I'll turn it over to you. I want you to come on. I want you to fucking tell me when Muhammad went to Florida. I'll stop everything. I'll give you the fucking floor. You've already taken over chat. I'll give you the floor, you centrist, you. And let's learn about how Islam, Mecca, and Medina actually fucking came to Florida. Central Florida, where the white trash is, as you say. I'll wait. You want me to send you a link? Hang on, folks. I got somebody. It's very seldom do I meet incredibly wonderful, inspired people who know what the fuck they're talking about, who just need a platform. And I want to give anybody like that a platform, right? Because damn it, they need a platform. So here you go. Funny if the EU just nuked Florida out of the blue. Okay, so I got you on topic. So there you go. I want you to have your day, Mohammed. I want you to have your day. Increase immigration. Okay? Come on. I want to see you. Quit typing. We all want to see you. You are the most important thing, right? Now we're going to be boom, increase small towns, increase this. Small towns are worthless. Yeah. See, here's what I say, folks. Evil is a distraction. Immigrants are more valuable than the white trash. See how they won't come on? White trash are fucking garbage. Let's see what else we get. I'm going to make, because the chicken should come on. We need more immigrants in small towns. Small towns' males are essentially worthless. Immigrants are more valuable than white trash. White trash are fucking garbage. There's always a lesson in this beautiful stuff. And you know what the lesson always is in this stuff? When you start getting down to truth and you start understanding what's really real in this world, evil comes at you to try to distract you. Evil and distraction cannot stay away from my work. They're fucking drawn to it like flies because it's a game of pulling off as many eyeballs as they can. Right? Now, what happens is when they suck you into it, because they're stupid ass words, they've now taken your attention, right? And they got you. Well, see, this is the whole lesson of Muhammad and what went on. Because see, in all of this rhetoric and all of these things you're taught about Islam and peaceful, and you can't connect. Well, how the fuck is it peaceful if they're cutting people's heads off? You forget what really happened. Here's the most important thing that happened with Muhammad and why there is even Allah. See, in Muhammad's day, because they were polytheistic and had all of these, he basically sold the concept that you have to be monotheistic like the Jews. You have to be monotheistic like the Jews. What were the Jews harassed for? Why were the Jews killed? Because they would not turn away from the one true God. So this is where a very simple thing happened in history. You ready? It's called capitalization. Allah, small g, who was always recognized and was part of that pantheon, not over it, not above it, not in control of it, was just one of the vast array of gods. Muhammad changed him from small g to big G. That was the real swap. Over here, you had the God, all-powerful God, burning bushes, everything, right? Everything. Everything. And the world knew it. And the world had signs. And the world had revelations. And the world had countless prophets. But one small pantheon God, Allah, small a, small g, through a person, Muhammad, was elevated to the capital G. And now you know why the Jews would not accept it. Because he was saying, nope, there's a new God in town. This is it. You've been wrong for all these thousands of years. And therein lay the crush. What's the crush? Because the Jewish people would never turn away. The entire thing, if you're a Christian, that your faith is built upon, not turning away from God. And the one non-negotiable demand on the other side, no, this small g is now going to become the big G. You've got to abandon the OG. And that's it. That's exactly as it is. That is what basically, through the core reform that Muhammad did, to hide. Islam didn't rename an entity. It just redefined it. That's all it did. Okay, that was there, like Zeus, but now it's big G. That's it. And so, if you look at it on its face, the thing that strikes me is how it mimics Judaism, how it mimics Christianity. When you look at its core, a lot of ways people get tripped up in things is it mimics something great until you get into it, and it ends up being a disaster. That's the difference. It's a very subtle change. We're not doing numerology. That is not what this is. It's not what I'm teaching. I just want you to understand what people were facing this. It sounds familiar. It seems familiar. We've heard this before, but at its heart is only a change in a capitalization. And that capitalization required you to walk away from thousands and thousands and thousands of years of understanding who God is and was. That's it. That's it. One does not try to recruit you. You don't try to recruit it to be a Jew. It's not done. One says you must be recruited, you must capitulate, you must comply, or you are an infidel, and the only thing you're worthy of death. Now, I'm going to cover in this series, I'm going to cover how did peaceful become you convert or you're dead. How did peaceful become, well, we can do whatever we want because Allah approved it. And what we're going to do is just unpack the history. This is all known facts from Islamic history. This is not Christian history. I'm giving you Islamic history. And in part of this, there are uncomfortable things to deal with.
She was wearing basically like a nightie. And then he walks away praising Allah because he concluded that since he desired her, Allah was revealing that
this is Muhammad. Later in life, seeing someone he wanted.
she was wearing basically like a nightie. And then he walks away praising Allah because he concluded that since he desired her, Allah was revealing that she's going to be his. So Zayd divorces her so that Muhammad could have her. So Muhammad has an adopted son. Adopted son has a beautiful wife. Muhammad sees her almost naked, gets attracted to her, concludes that she's for him. His adopted son divorces her specifically so that Muhammad could have her. But then Muhammad gives the reason from Allah, because everyone starts saying, you can't take the wife of your own adopted son. They regarded that as the same as incest, basically back then. So they regard that as like incest. Then Allah has to explain why he told Muhammad to do that. It's not me. Allah ordered me to take
didn't
that
even
woman.
want to.
Yeah.
Just,
I had to have her because of Allah. And Allah explains it. Anyone who wants to read it? Surah 33, verse 37 of the Quran. I kid you not, Allah says, the reason I needed you, Muhammad, to marry the wife of your own adopted son is because other people are wondering if they can marry the wives of their adopted sons, and I need them to know it's okay.
Okay.
Now, how many people do you know of, ever, in history, who really struggled? Can I take the wife of my own adopted son or not? I don't know. I need an explanation from God.
Yeah.
So that's just silly for multiple reasons. So now suppose it was Allah looks around and sees, wow, there's all these guys wondering if they can take the wives of their own adopted sons out there. What am I going to do? I know, I'll have Muhammad marry the wife of his own adopted son, and then they'll know. Well, couldn't you have just revealed that? Like in the Quran, just said, okay, in case anyone's wondering whether you can take the wife of your own adopted son, yes, you can. Why do you need Muhammad to do it?
These are some of the things we'll discuss, because a very interesting thing in this, instead of having ancient books, an ancient text, an ancient wisdom, and the ancient record of God, Islam has a very interesting thing. They have Islam and people and words. Then they have text. And then as Islam goes on and there's clashes in the text changes to justify what has historically happened and say, well, it came from Allah. All this is history. Your faith is your faith, period. I and no one else has any stake in your faith. But what you have to understand is the origins of all of this. The origins of something that you're going to have to deal with in your life, and you are going to have to deal with Islam. You're going to have to understand it. It might help you understand why so many people are touchy, because in a lot of things, they kind of become questionable. You can't defend it. But at the end of the day, your relationship with God, big G, is your decision. Where you decide to give your time and your faith is your decision. All I would hope for anyone historically is where does this come from? And why do we have all religions that say don't murder and kill your neighbor, that politics tries to tell you they're evil, they're wicked, and then on the other side of it that does say kill people who aren't like you, tries to convince the world that's peaceful? I think even the most confused people can see there's a little bit of conflict there. And that's all I'm trying to bring to you is some forbidden history. And we'll kind of unpack this one by one. And let's just say that very few people have the background of a lot of these things. So let's kind of look at the background, because in historical terms, when you're dealing with the year 610 forward, it's pretty current history in our lives, meaning when we live now versus those who lived long ago. I hope you enjoyed this series. Share it. It'll be a fun ride. But again, your faith, your religion is not decided by some podcast or some person. It's incumbent to you to know where faith, any faith, comes from, and then decide what's best for you. Share this program.
Our courts are based on clear and convincing evidence. Want convictions? Want justice? For what happened in the 2020 election? Then we need your help. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The decision you make in the next few moments could decide whether we ever get our elections fixed or not. Here's why. Trump campaign and allies filed 64 different lawsuits. They all went down in flames. 100% of these cases were presented on "It's the machines," or "The machines changed the votes," or "The voting company executive said he would make sure Donald J. Trump would not win." They all went down in flames. Why? You can't bring theories to court as evidence. No supposed Zoom call or six-degree polynomial math theory or census data is or ever will be proof of fraud. You can't bring theories to court as evidence. Here's why. In both civil and criminal law, the side making a claim carries the burden of proof, and prosecutors must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Without physical or otherwise verifiable evidence, a case cannot meet this high threshold. Physical evidence is the key. The question is, did anyone get relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The full forensic audit of Maricopa County, Arizona is the only evidence-gathering work which gathered relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election. Evidence so damning that the system, the deep state, and those who pull the strings of this country have fought to keep it hidden and have hoped to have it be forgotten to time. Almost $3 million invested in time, funds, and efforts to unlock that which the system wanted hidden. But now, that evidence is in danger of being lost forever. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. With the 2026 midterms coming up, the system is going to try to lame duck President Trump and then most likely introduce new impeachment proceedings. This is the evidence which will help win the war which is surely to come. We need to keep Maricopa County full forensic investigation and archive secure and ongoing. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We need your help securing the full forensic audit archives. Don't allow the only testable, objective, and reliable 2020 election evidence fall into obscurity. Millions were spent on getting it documented and tested. This is historic evidence. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County full forensic audit archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. Please donate now.